Hi, it's iRacing commentator David Haynes. In 2019, I'm excited to be bringing coverage of the Champ Car Sim Series, the sim racing division of the Champ Car Endurance Series. Contested across 15 championship rounds using the 2015 Mazda MX-5, the winners will receive a free entry into a real Champ Car Endurance Series race in the 2020 season. Each points round will be broadcast live by HJBC. Head to forum.champcar.org for full information and schedule. Sign-ups are open, so get registered now. Best of luck, and I'll see you at the track. Hello guys, gals and pals, welcome to more Reddit iRacing League coverage from Team Huge Ass. This is Season 27 and this is Round 8. A very interesting race for us once again. A free content round here in Reddit iRacing League. We are using the Dallara IndyCar IR05 from 2011 on Daytona International Speedway, the free version from 2007. This is going to be an interesting oval race because these are some pretty quick cars. And Daytona International Speedway, what needs to be said about this 2.5 mile oval? Not a whole lot, if we're honest. Qualifying underway right now. Most drivers have completed all of their 3 allowed time laps, and we're heading towards a 55-minute race tonight. I'm David Haynes, our producer, Kyle Smith, and alongside me, Aaron Thacker. Apologies, Aaron. How you doing?
I am doing well, David. It's always nice to be in sunny Florida, where the current temperature is 74 degrees with a 99-degree track temperature. It's about 2.5 minutes left, and we've got some pretty speedy laps on the board. And David, watching these cars, you always forget how bumpy this 2007 layout is. But my goodness, these guys are all over the place, especially on that bottom line.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see much three-wide racing in these cars. Too wide seems like enough of a challenge as it is. The slipstream will definitely, and the drafting, definitely come into play here. Cautions are enabled, so we'll see what effect that has on pit strategy through this race. How many pit stops is ideal? Do you pit with every caution? Do you stay out until you can hit your fuel number to go to the end? That's, I guess, one of the questions we're waiting to be answered. So we wait for this 10-minute qualifying session to wind down.
Yeah, I'm taking a quick look at our championship standings. So we have P1 in points. Alex Albert, our previous season champion, season 26 champion. So he's excuse me, not season 26, season 25 champion Alex Albert in P1 in points. Giovanni Rano in P2, Nate Franklin P3, and Andrew Fawcett in P4. David, these guys are separated by 39 points across the board here, so very tight. But right now, I'm looking up on the leaderboard, and Alex Albert he's struggling right now. He is P13 on track in terms of qualifying, and Giovanni Armando, David, has not set a time. Do you know what's going on there?
If I'm honest, no, but we do have 3 drivers in the session who have not set a qualifying time. Those are Mitchell Welker, Antonio Alvarez, and Giovanni Romano. I don't know if they're intentionally not set a qualifying time or if they had some troubles setting one. But that's 3 drivers of our 26 who haven't set a qualifying time. As you point out, the top 5 or so, very, very close indeed. But I think with the lone qualifying, the setup to be quick for one qualifying lap is pretty different to what's going to be necessary to be quick in the draft and in the race conditions. So I don't think any of the guys who aren't in that top 5 of qualifying really need to be that worried.
Yeah, I don't think so. So we've got just a few seconds left. Looks like everybody has knocked out their times, and currently P4 in points. Andrew Fawcett is look like he's gonna have the podium tonight, David. So that's pretty exciting stuff. It looks like everybody's favorite Jordan Babcock and Babs Nation is coming in right at P11. So, David, we're gonna have a full pace lap here. I'm gonna let you walk us through this very exciting and very full field of 26 cars.
So our front row is going to be Andrew Fawcett and Justin Lemons. Behind them, Brian Molitor and Matthew Hall. Then Nate Franklin and Daniel Bartz sharing the third row. Behind them, Justin Hall and Hunter Reeve. We've got David Adamczyk in ninth, Michael Derby in 10th, Jordan Babcock starting out of 11th, Ryan Verholst in 12th to keep him company on the 6th row. Alex Albert, as you point out, down in 13th there with David Hall in 14th, Shane Cameron in 15th, Dylan Blanton in 16th. Alex Coffard is in the 17th there. And the pole sitter, brother of our pole sitter, Ben Fawcett, is down in 18th. I don't know if those brothers are good at sharing. Mine isn't always, but I don't know if Ben Fawcett quite got that good setup. Christopher Flamion in 19th, Jordan Beck in 20th, Sean Haug in 21st, Anthony Yunes in 22nd, and Paul Fitzgerald is the last driver with a qualifying time. That means he starts out of 23rd. There's three drivers without a qualifying time going to grid in the order of Giovanni Romano, Antonio Alvarez, and Mitchell Welker. And I think in the absence of a qualifying time, it may have come down to either the order they joined the session or how fast their practice times were.
Yeah, we're really going to need to keep an eye on those guys there. Antonio Alvarez did not set a qualifying time. We have unfortunately not seen Antonio. We haven't said his name too much on broadcast this year, but he's always one of our favorites and always a wonderful post-race interview. But David, I want to quickly talk about where these guys are about to exit pit lane here. This is very, very tricky. Probably going to see at least a couple dozen pits, probably yellow flags tonight. But what I'm thinking, David, is as these guys come out of the pits, they have fresh tires. My goodness, these cars are very dicey on cold tires. And also, the stewards of this race have made it very clear they will not be clearing black flags. So you see these very long lines here. They've got to be very careful coming out the pitch. You get it loose, you goose it, you might find yourself with a black flag, and that is going to be a stop-and-go penalty. So, David, we're going to see some caution tonight, and we're going to probably see maybe some green flag pit stops, we hope. But these guys have got to be very careful with that pit exit this evening because it is going to be tricky, and some opportunity for some black flags are definitely out there.
Yeah, it can also be very hard to get your car stopped in your box in pit lane, and this is one of those cars that we definitely see people overshooting pit lane from time to time. And there's a blue cone on the exit of what's the oval turns 1 and 2 there. That's how far around the drivers have to go on the apron before they can rejoin and merge up. They can't do so before turn 1. So the pit exit there, got to be very careful with that. It's a little bit slower than some of the drivers might otherwise expect. No jumping up onto the racing line in front of other drivers.
No, none of that. And we're watching these guys ride the bottom line here. The top line is going to be an option here. Rubbering in is going to be important. But I want to mention rubbering in, and we're talking about some tires. We had a fantastic experience last week with the brand new tire model 7. Not on this car. We've got some old school tires in here, driving a bit differently. These guys probably not going to have too much issue because there's tons of downforce on these cars. But we're in for a good one tonight, David. And the guys are coming up to start finish, getting ready for a green flag.
Yep, indeed they are. That front row of Andrew Fawcett and Justin Lamans get the green flag, and not a particularly huge jump from either of them. The pack very, very much stacked up. Green flag came out the moment the pace car dived down, and I don't think our leader, Andrew Fawcett, was expecting it. I don't think Justin Lamans on the outside was either. So Brian Molitor down on the low side grabs another position. Matthew Hall comes through as well, and the first 4 cars have gone single file, but there's still double file in the background.
Yeah, still double file in the background here, and it looks like Hunter Reeve is making a very, very good run. He's working his way on Justin Lamans, and we're seeing some too wide up front already, but that front pack of Matthew Hall and Brian Molitor and Andrew Fawcett, these guys are staying in line, but we watch this back group here stack up just a little bit, and my goodness, we are still seeing Hunter Reeve on the outside of Justin Lamans here.
Hunter Reeve, another one of those drivers with a big jump off the start. If he can complete that pass around the outside, he'd be up 4 positions. But I don't think he quite can right now. Lamans is slotted in to what's a bit of a train there. No one is yet ready to pass Andrew Fawcett. And I think while everyone will stick with him in the slipstream in the draft, it's proving hard to pass up on the high side. Hunter Reeve's the only driver having much success with it at all.
Yeah, Hunter Reese, he may have found something here. He's got a very nice side draft. I know in NASCAR, the side draft is very, very effective. As you watch Justin Lamons try and take a peek at what Hunter Reese may be doing. But David, he is making some fantastic progress on the outside there. I wonder if he's going to be able to get a little more side draft and possibly grab the lead. He's got another partner, David, who's dropped in with him there. Is that Matthew Hall has now taken in behind Hunter Reeve, and it looks like this group is willing to go side by side across it here, and Hunter Reeve may grab a lap lead here if he can keep this up.
Yeah, great progress up on that high line from Hunter Reeve. It's not going to be this time. He was nose to nose there with Andrew Fawcett across the line, but he's just getting such a much better exit off the corners on the high side is Hunter Reeve. He loses a bit of ground through our turns of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but then on the exit, I think he's just wide open throttle, far more confidently up there, which is interesting to see. Now some other drivers deeper in the train trying to follow along with his technique. At the start, initially, everyone wanted to hug that yellow line down at the apron, but now some are seeing progress is possible a little bit higher up the racetrack.
Yeah, we're getting super bunched up back. We've got Nate Franklin side by side with Matthew Hall, and right behind that we've got Daniel Bartz. Right behind that we've got Justin Hall. This back group here. Oh, as you watch, these guys are watching these bumps. Nate Franklin had a bit of a scary moment there getting in front of Matthew Hall, but it looks like they've slotted all back in. But yeah, this front group working on some progress here. But David, yeah, it looks like pretty much all the way back to P15. Everybody is in a very tight group, and P16 on the back of broken away just a little bit from this front pack, but some very tight racing early on in this race.
Yeah, Brian Molitor is doing an interesting job there in third, just watching what these two for the lead are doing. Whichever way he goes, is it the low line or the high line, he'll pick up a draft regardless. A lot of other drivers just trying to play it a little bit cautious at the moment. As long as they don't lose touch with this lead pack, it won't be an issue for them. Fuel consumption in these cars, they're pretty thirsty, honestly. Normally expect about 20 minutes of racing to a tank of fuel. So it is very much possible that some of the drivers might be thinking about their fuel consumption in the pack here. And if we go green to the first pit stop, that could be an advantage for some drivers if they've got a little bit more fuel.
Yeah, indeed. Right now, somebody who's not looking to save fuel, that is Hunter Reeve, who continues to ride on the outside, and I'm sure it is absolutely annoying the living daylights out of Andrew Fawcett, who just wants to run himself a clean race early on as we get very close entering NASCAR 3 and 4 here. A fast lap on track right now is Mr. Now P3, Matthew Hall with a 36.95 as we get a little bit of a scary moment there, but yeah, David, he's done it. David Hunter Reeve has fallen in line into P3 right behind Brian Molitor, but how long is he going to stay there? I'm not sure. Matthew Hall looked to take a peek outside. Okay, is everybody behaving themselves? We're 10 minutes into this race. We had some pretty exciting side-by-side action. It looks like everybody is behaving themselves outside of Nate Franklin and Justin Hall. These two are continuing trying to go side-by-side.
And I think about a lap ago, I saw Daniel Bartz trying to complete a pass on the apron on the front stretch. I'm not sure that's favored, but we have our first caution of the race in the wall. I think might be Jordan Babcock or Ryan Verhulst. A couple of drivers on the tow hook on their way to the pit lane, and the whole field's going to have to really check up and let that pace car come on through. And we have our first caution of the race. It was a little bit of a matter of time, I think. So take this opportunity under caution to go back and look at what has caused it.
Yeah, the whole thing started with Matthew Hall. He was coming through NASCAR 3 and 4. Right when he entered NASCAR 3, that left side dipped below the yellow line. He got a little squirrely, and then he hit some draft, and the car just pushed, hit the wall, and that was the end of it. Everybody else behind him was just an absolute passenger. And yeah, David, it looks like we've got about 4 cars caught up, and then we had somebody cut through the infield. Actually, several cars cut through the infield. We've got quite a bit of carnage out there that we're going to have to clean up. And yeah, our first caution. David, right along with David Bartz here, what did you see?
Yeah, Daniel Bart's obviously one of those drivers who didn't quite have enough time to react to Matthew Hall bouncing off the wall.
Yeah, yeah, just some tough issues for these guys, looks like. Yeah, we've got Jordan Babcock, who's taken a pit. Ryan Verhulst has taken a pit. Daniel Bartz has taken a pit. Matthew Hall has taken a pit. Christopher Flamian has taken a pit. So, yeah, that is 5 cars for the first incident here. And, yeah, looks like likely a fast repair. Everybody else appears to have stayed out. We've got a big checkup on NASCAR 4 here. I'm not quite sure what is going on here. David, do you know what these guys are doing?
Uh, imagine there might be somewhat. I think Hunter Reeve has popped his engine, and the other drivers are being told by race control not to pass his car, but they have to because he's got no motor.
And we've got some courtesy here. It looks like Nate Franklin is giving him a push into the pits. Nate Franklin likely has some damage, so that was a very generous move by Nate Franklin there, pushing him in. But we do have a car stalled on the tri-oval. Appears to be car number 42. So yeah, David, just all sorts of chaos here on this first caution, but looks like the front group, we have no pit stop takers. Andrew Fawcett is still in P1, Brian Malter P2, Justin Hall P3, Michael DeBrew P4, and Alex Albert, my goodness, up 8 spots, is right there in P5 and our championship points leader.
So the undamaged cars, most of them staying out at this point. I don't think the tire wear has been a particularly significant factor at this point. They're not really using them up too much in the about 8 or so laps that they did. So the likes of Andrew Fawcett, Brian Molitor, and our leaders there stay out. The highest of the drivers that have taken a pit stop is Giovanni Romano in 13th. So maybe look for him to move up through the field a bit. Same for Antonio Alvarez in 14th. Don't know what pit service he took on this lap, but he might have had a little bit of damage, and he's also come through and taken a new set of tires and fueled that car up. Yeah, so some exciting couple of laps from the drop of the green flag. It did feel maybe a little bit inevitable that at some point someone would be in the wall, and at the speeds these guys are doing, it's very, very hard to react and avoid an incident like that.
Yeah, you bet. And I think we saw the first example of, we're probably going to see a few of these actually, of dropping the tires on the apron. Ideally, this is not quite like Indianapolis, where these guys really want to ride on that bottom line. Here with this track, this older track, a very bumpy track, you really want to avoid that yellow line. You want to be as close to it as you possibly can. Do not touch any tires with that yellow line, or more or less drop below, because that apron is not forgiving. That's really going to unsettle the car, not only from a camber standpoint, but probably going to disrupt some aero. And yeah, we just saw that happen in real time there, and just the car snaps, the car gets light, and that's the end of it. So we've got 5 cars that have really crashed out of this early, but thankfully with the fast repair, likely getting through here. David, I'm not sure if we have some lucky dog on this, if some guys can get back on the lead lap, but everybody has. Yeah, we just got clarification. There is wave around on this one here, so the moderators can help out some of these guys a lap down in real time. But we've actually got a big old group that has taken some pits now. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 10 cars that have taken a pit. So pretty much everybody from P13 down has taken a pit stop.
Lights are out on the pace car. They're heading towards pit in. Andrew Fawcett might react a little more cleverly this time. He puts the throttle down earlier. Good jump from Andrew Fawcett. It's behind that we need to look. Problems. Yellow flag once again.
Yeah, yellow flag once again, and I think it started with David. I think it started with David Hall. No, it did not start with David Hall. It actually started a little bit in front of him.
I think it started with Alex Albert. He's put the throttle down, lit them up, come into the wall, and then actually been collected, I think, by the 10 car, which is David Hall, who's done a similar mistake, and the two of them have then come together at the start of the race, at the start of the lap there. So a couple of drivers struggling to put the throttle down and all the power in first gear.
Yeah, that is disaster for our championship points leader, Alex Albert. Yeah, he absolutely goosed it, and that was the end of his start there. And David Hall was the unlucky member of that. But David, he really was almost losing it before he even got to Alex Albert. So just when we thought we were about to go green, we are back in it on a caution. So right now, Andrew Fawcett continues to hang out up front, but we've got a few moments to walk through some of these guys with who are big gainers right now. Dylan Blanton up 11 spots, currently in P5. Andrew Fawcett up 12 spots. And our big winners right now, it's kind of a tie. We've got Anthony Jones up 13 spots, Paul Fitzgerald up 13 spots, Giovanni Romano, who's our P2 in points. That's going to be big for him with Alex Albert being out up 13 spots, and Antonio Alvarez also up 13 spots. So, David, tons of trouble early, just right under 43 minutes left in this race. And yeah, these guys are quickly realizing that on this tri-oval banking, there is some pretty difficult challenges when it comes to restarting and not spinning out.
It's sort of always been the case with these cars, though. The power doesn't come on immediately. The engine takes a little bit to rev up. You can plant the throttle in first, the car sticks initially, and then when the power comes on, the rears spin up when you're not expecting it. I think that's what we saw from David Hall. I think that's what we saw from Alex Albert. I certainly made that mistake plenty of times in this car as well. Someone getting the wave around there. So a couple of cars are now in this second caution, going to go back onto the lead lap. If you're Andrew Fawcett, I don't know how you feel about another yellow. It ticks the time down. We're time certain rather than laps. So time under yellow is the clock being eaten up while he's in the lead. But at the same time, I'm sure he'd rather go racing.
Yeah, I'm sure he would definitely like to go racing instead. We did have a few more takers on that last round. Antonio Alvarez has taken a pit stop, and Matthew Hall has also taken a pit stop. So that was two cars that were running up towards the top there. And Alex Albert, David, is still in the pits. This is a 2-minute pit stop, and I'm starting to wonder if he is not just parked that Budweiser IndyCar and hopped up into the fan section and enjoying a Budweiser, because that is a very long pit stop. It does not take 2 minutes. I wonder if Alex Albert has decided to hang it up for this one.
It is very well indeed possible. Of course, David Hall on the tow hook at the same time has already left the pit lane and gotten back out and racing again. So we've got Alex Albert, who turned 11 laps and now doesn't look like leaving the pit lane again. We've got David Adamczyk, who is circulating but has only completed 9 laps. He's 4 laps down. And Justin Lamons is a retirement, having completed 4 laps. Mitchell Welker did not take the start. It was the only driver not to take the start. So we had Alvarez and Romano starting from the back of the grid, but they did go racing.
Yeah, so we've got, yeah, looks like the lights are still on the car here. So we've got probably one more lap before we get going. But yeah, David, I think it's really interesting what we're observing here is, these guys need to be very careful on the throttle. I was going to do a quick look up on what sort of horsepower we have on these cars, but these cars are some screamers, tons of horsepower, not a lot of weight. They do have a whole boatload of downforce, a little bit of a more conservative look from what some of the Indy cars look now. Not as much of an aggressive, almost a, dare I say, showy aero package on it, but these guys are still packing a punch in terms of downforce here. A big old rear wing and a very favorable front wing. Not as many vanes, not as much wild geometry as you'll see on an F1 car. Very much single focused on keeping that car planted here. And you see just one little blinky light at the very end of the car here is letting everybody know that there's a caution. But yeah, very interesting car. The car is definitely dated, definitely looks dated, but still fun to drive, as you guys were seeing tonight with a 26 car field. Somebody enjoys this guy.
So across the start finish line, will the lights go out on the pace car? And they will. So one more time around, we'll get racing again, and hopefully this green flag running will last a little bit longer than the previous one did.
Yeah, I'll really appreciate that. And yeah, David, I was able to find some stats here. So yeah, this car is a 3.5 liter V8, a screaming V8. I think these guys are running probably about 12,000 RPMs, and we're about 650 horsepower. And the weight of this car is 1,500 pounds, or 700 or 691 kilograms to you, David, down there, down south. So very exciting car to watch. But yeah, just not a lot of weight with a massive power to weight ratio here. So guys have got to be careful as much as you want to smash it on the throttle. Now, David, in car on with these vehicles, do these guys have an opportunity to change the engine map? Because maybe you want to dial it down on some of these starts and then cue it back up once you get going.
I'm not sure there's a more subtle racing engine map. I'm pretty sure there might only be full power and sort of a uh, full course yellow engine map. I think a lot of this is the drivers are just going to have to be a little more gentle, rolling into the gas when it's time to go, which is not far away now. We've completed 14 laps. It'll be 15 when we get racing again. There's definitely time with 37 minutes to go to fit a lot more laps in if we stay under green. Green flag laps about 37 seconds. These laps behind the pace car about 2 minutes, but it's green flag now. Caution, guys. Be clever. Everyone get away smooth. Let's go racing.
And here we go. We are out of the box, and it looks like everybody's clean. Andrew Fawcett gets a very favorable run on Brian Malta. Looks like that top four group has got a pretty good run. Dylan Blanton kind of left by himself with Ben Fawcett there. So these guys have a little bit of catching up to do. And Shane Cameron, Jordan Beck, Anthony Nunez, Paul Fitzgerald, those guys are kind of our next batch here. So we've kind of got four groups with this restart here. And Giovanni Romano sitting in P11 is our highest pitter, David. So keep an eye on him. He's got some fresh tires. We've got a car up high. My goodness, that was a very scary moment for Anthony Ewens right there, going up very high, almost washing up. But things are getting spicy up front.
Yeah, indeed, Fawcett still leading. Got Molitor diligently sitting in his draft. Justin Hall is in third place now and dragging along Michael Derby, and these four trying to get away, but I think fifth place Dylan Blanton is going to close in on them just a little bit. For the moment, the three cars behind are willing to just follow in the wheel tracks of Andrew Fawcett. Dramas for Shane Cameron. He's just gone and lost 2 spots.
Yeah, these guys are a whole mess back here. We had 3 wide a few minutes ago with Jordan Beck is back here with Paul Fitzgerald, Andrew Cobb. These guys are 3 wide, so they sorted themselves out a little bit. That was very scary as they entered NASCAR 3 and 4 in a full 3 wide set. Everybody held themselves, but the most terrifying spot you can be in that position is that middle spot, because you just don't know what the other 2 guys are going to do. As we're watching Jordan Beck kind of hung out to dry from car 19 here. Alex Cofford is probably going to get stuck out here, and yeah, Alex Cofford is going to complete that pass, and they've got Jordan Beck, Hunter Reeve looking to make another pass as well.
Yeah, 2 wide here. Hunter Reeve, man, who was trying to lead some laps earlier on, now got to work his way back up through the field. This time, in a change from his previous form, he's down on the low side, trying to make a move. He sticks his nose in front of Jordan Beck for the moment. Taps a little bit of apron, does Hunter Reeve. Very bumpy, and he's not really used to running down that low.
No, he's not, and yeah, he was our middle line man. And David, we've got a slow car up front. Car on the high side. It looks like that could be just a lap car for this front group here, but that is potentially very dangerous. Yeah, that's Jordan Babcock. He's very responsibly taking the high line, but this is not easy for these guys who are just absolutely flying and hugging that bottom line as much as they can.
6th place Ben Fawcett just set the fastest lap of the race at 36.9, so he's picked up a very strong tow, and he's closing in on this battle for the lead. Fawcett leads Molitor, Hall in third, a couple car lengths then to Michael Derby in fourth. Dylan Blanton closed up there into fifth. Ben Fawcett, I said, qualifying down in 18th. Might have just been a little bit of nerves there, because suddenly he's coming up through the pack and he's got the fastest lap of the race. And he's closing in on the battle for the lead, where Andrew Fawcett has led every lap of this race so far. But you wonder how long that can continue for. He's got a lot of drivers breathing down the back of his neck.
Yeah, he absolutely does, and he's taking a bit of an interesting line. That what we're starting to get a little bit of an arrow push. Let's see, where is Ben Fawcett on my leaderboard here? I'm trying to see where he is on laps. So he's actually the same as everybody else. So this front group, David, they have not taken tires. Hunter Reeve is our earliest pitter with, he's currently in P9. So these guys up front probably getting a little bit pushy with about 21 laps worth on these tires here. I was watching Matthew Hall take after Jordan Babcock taking that high line, but that still doesn't make these guys any less nervous. But yeah, watching Ben Fawcett, he's really kind of moved his car to the middle line. He's got to be careful, dude. He's really starting to lose ground to Dylan Blanton here, and he needs to work his way up. He's watching his speeds here, 245, and where are these other guys at? So yeah, he's definitely down a few MPHs. He's got to be careful getting by this left. Oh, we've got a car on the wall.
Hall, that's Justin Hall. I think he's caught the apron, pushed up into the wall, but thankfully, I think almost everyone's been able to avoid him. But that's a horrible place to catch the wall. It's difficult to get onto pit road from there. So from the battle pack in the top four, Justin Hall has lost his bearings, caught a little bit of the apron, unsettled the car, and at high speeds found the outside wall here at Daytona. But he kept it pointing the right way despite the damage and the impact, and the racing stays green for the moment. In your top five is Andrew Fawcett, Brian Molitor, Michael Derby, Dylan Blanton, and Ben Fawcett trying to stay with that top five. You called out the weather at the top of the broadcast, Aaron. We're getting deeper into the evening. It's cooled off a little bit. And the other lap just then, I saw a lot of drivers set their personal best times. A caution is out. Anthony Younes is on the tow hook, I think. Let's look what's caused this caution.
Yeah, I'm checking out here. Yeah, we got a Hunter Reeve as well, David. Hunter Reeve, unfortunately, he is watching him. Yeah, he was going across the tri-oval, had a wheel bump with car number 76. Oh, the car is, oh my goodness, David. So yeah, that was the issue. Hunter Reeve was going down the straightaway, and unfortunately, that car is sitting completely sideways. We see Justin Hall. Looks like he was re-entering. It may have spun. Yeah, David Hunt. My goodness, Justin Hall was exiting the pit lane after his incident, spun up the tires, spun across the track, and just got absolutely clobbered by Hunter Reeve. So, David, disaster for two very quick drivers in this race. Wow.
Justin might have also found a bump. I mean, it's not hard to find a bump on this circuit, but on the pit exit there as well. So cold tires, revving up the throttle there. Justin Hall, I was praising him for not causing the caution earlier. I have to say he's gone and caused one now, unfortunately.
Yeah, he has done that exactly. So I'm really watching out for some pit strategy to come play in now. Everybody from P10 all the way down has taken a pit stop, whether for that was a quick repair or they have had damage. But I fully anticipate everybody from Andrew Fawcett all the way down through P9 to be taking their pit stop. Right now, as we're watching Andrew Fawcett pin up pretty close to that pace car. He's probably queuing up his tires, queuing up some fuel, getting all his things set for a quick and speedy pit stop. So I think we're going to watch these guys exiting a NASCAR 4 here. Let's see Andrew Fawcett looking like he wants to take it. Brian Molitor also looking like he wants to take it. Who's going to do it? And yeah, David, so we have some takers and we have some no takers, some strategy coming in here with just under 30 minutes left in this race as our leader, Andrew Fawcett, stays out.
A real split in the call there. Andrew Fawcett stays out, but coming in is Brian Molitor, Michael Derby, Dylan Blanton, Jordan Beck, Shane Cameron, Giovanni Romano, but then a few other drivers staying out, like Alex Coffard, Paul Fitzgerald, Daniel Bartz, who pitted earlier. So some of those guys who pitted under some of the previous cautions now cycling their way back through as drivers in front of them pit. So that's an interesting way that this is all cycling out. But we've got the two shouty boys at the front now with Andrew Fawcett and Ben Fawcett, the two brothers in first and second in this race for the moment, as neither of them have pitted yet.
No, none of them have pitted yet, so let's take a look at some of those pit times. Who was the winner? Wow, Nate Franklin did a 2.5 second pit stop, so I anticipate that is probably not anything meaningful. Maybe he was clearing a damaged car or clearing out, yeah, probably a fast repair. But everybody else looks like 8.1 is going to be our speedy pit stop, and that was done by Christopher Fleming. What a pit stop by his group. And yeah, it looks like our average is 8.5, 8.8. We got some 8.7s, even a 9.1 out there. Shane Cameron, not the best work from his pit crew. So everybody is clean, but we have 4 cars that have opted to not take a pit stop. David, I believe pit lane is still open, so there may still be an opportunity for that top 4 group to come down.
Yeah, I have it wouldn't be a smart thing to do if you didn't pit the first time around to pit now, because you'd cycle all the way to the back. The pit lane would have opened for cars on the lead lap, which is all of our field down to 16th place. So David Cahill, the first car off the lead lap, and I believe the pit lane will be open to them this time by. So there's a couple drivers down there who could take it, and we've got Alex Albert back in the race.
Hey, we enjoy seeing our points leader back out there. He may have, as I said, he may have taken a adult beverage break, slam that, feel better about himself, and come back out. So always nice to see our points leader. But yeah, you were definitely right, David. That was a strategy call they decided not to go for. And Andrew Fawcett, Ben Fawcett, Alex Cofford, and Paul Fitzgerald remain on track, and the lights are out on the pace car. So we are going to get going here very quickly, as I believe the cars are. Yeah, they're on the backstretch right now, so still a bit of time left. So I'm trying to figure out where we are on some of these lap times, and we've kind of scrubbed off some time here. But in terms of fast laps, we've got to try and see what. Let's see, Ben Fawcett. Yeah, he was doing. Yeah, David, he was doing 37s on that last lap, and I'm going to go down to Nate Franklin, who had fresh tires. Yeah, he was about two to 3 tenths quicker. So I'm really interested to see what some of these guys can do on fresh tires. It's going to be interesting. Yeah, it looks like even some of these guys with fresh tires can do 36s, David. So it's going to be interesting to watch this top group, probably almost a full second slower. Daniel Bartz is quick. Nate Franklin is also quick, so it's going to be challenging for those guys to get the tires down, get the power down, and get a good start, because this back group is going to be coming very quick.
Yeah, indeed, will be interesting to see if the drivers who haven't pitted can hold on, and also how much fuel they've got left. Green, though, Andrew Fawcett, reasonable jump. Ben Fawcett comes along with him, and Alex Coffard still occupying the 3rd position there, but he's dropped a couple car lengths to our leaders. It won't be long before he takes it back in the slipstream. Sean Haug has gone and dropped 4 places on the restart, though. Make that 5, make that a couple more. So not perfect restart for the number 23 car, but side by side for the lead. It's Fawcett on the inside and Fawcett on the outside, and Andrew Fawcett is, I think, still going to hold on to it through this corner here as the Ben pulls out of the slipstream. He loses a little bit of the momentum. And of course, Alex Coffard in 3rd has plenty of opportunity to close back in, and he's doing just that. Paul Fitzgerald still holding on to 4th. Daniel Bartz, first of the cars on a new set of tyres, in 5th. Is really looking for a way past him, but I don't think at the high speeds, once they've wound it up, the tyres are really what's holding them back at the moment. Maybe it'll just give Bartz a little more confidence across the bumps, but most of these guys almost keeping it pinned through the corners regardless.
Yeah, as commentators, it's a bit difficult to call the front here. We got Fawcett on Fawcett action as you watch Alex Cofford looking to join the battle here, and Daniel Bartz quickly behind that. But so a sibling rivalry here. And David, we've got another caution, David, another caution. What has occurred this time? Looks like, yeah, we have Ryan Verhulst may have had himself.
Definitely a lot of damage on that car for Ryan Verhulst, and trying to take back a little bit and see what caused him to get into the wall. Was it all of his own?
No, he was actually.
Was he helped by Jordan Beck there?
Yeah, car number 21. Yeah, Jordan Beck. He was banging. They were actually banging wheels going through NASCAR 3 and 4, and finally the car gave up the ghost there, and a pretty heavy contact. The car is driving a bit sideways, so I imagine both these cars are likely going to have some significant damage. So Ryan Verhulst, he was running pretty well, and that's definitely going to hurt Jordan Beck as well, as he was running in P10, and I can't imagine he's going to continue in P10 with the banging they were doing. But interesting to watch what's going to happen here with some pit cycles. Ryan Verhulst will definitely be in to take some much needed repairs.
Yes, indeedy. I'm wondering if this caution will let a couple more drivers back onto the lead lap. That's definitely something that could happen. More and more drivers, though, getting involved in some issues, and the pool of drivers in contention for the win, I think, has reduced somewhat.
Yeah.
So all up behind the pace car they are now. Pits open this time around, and still those drivers yet to pit are Andrew Fawcett, Ben Fawcett, Alex Coffard, and Paul Fitzgerald, who dropped 2 spots just before the caution came out. So he had gotten swallowed up by Daniel Bartz and Nate Franklin, but this time it looks like Andrew Fawcett will come down onto the pit road. Ben Fawcett going to follow him in. Is anyone going to stay out? Alex Coffard and Paul Fitzgerald are in. Michael Derby's in for the second time, but everyone who pitted under the previous caution, most of them are staying out. So now Daniel Bartz into the lead of the race. Nate Franklin's going to be second, and I think Brian Molitor is going to be third. So pitting under one of the earlier cautions, Daniel Bartz might be able to go to the end from there. He might have pulled a strategy masterstroke by maybe predicting how many cautions there might be.
Yeah, I definitely think he's potentially playing his cards in a very interesting way right now. So Andrew Fawcett being very, very careful coming out of pit lane, which is what you needed to do out here today. We've already seen some guys really misbehave coming out of the pit. So let's see everybody's cycles through. It looks like Andrew Fawcett, yeah, he's going to sneak back out in 9th place. And so he's going to have some fresh tires, but everybody else, yeah, Daniel Bartz and Nate Franklin, David, those guys are, Daniel Bartz, 23 laps on his tires. Nate Franklin, 21 laps on his tires. The only other car out there in this top group is Sean Hogg with 20 laps on his tires in P6. So we've got a pretty mixed bag here. Is everybody in between is about 6 laps in between. So and we are also
3 drivers getting waved around on before we go racing again, and that would look to be Jordan Babcock, David Adamczyk, and Matthew Hall. We've got 3 Halls in this race. We've got Matthew Hall, David Hall, and Justin Hall. And unlike the Fawcetts, I'm not sure who's related to who. Definitely, I think some of them it's purely coincidental.
Yeah, I think so. And, we always say here in RIL, we're all family, but some of this, they really are part of the family. So big old group here. Car number 12 coming out of the pits, Ryan Verhulst. That was a pretty big incident for him. He is coming back out, yeah, in P22. I don't know if he got the wave around or not. He may have to be careful with what he's doing around with this pace car. The lights are out of the pace car, so we're going to go back green. It looks like Ryan Verhulst, yeah, no wave around for him, David. He's going to have to drop all the way back to the back of this group, but he's going to have an opportunity to come out with some very fresh tires and make sure he gets those babies nice and warm out there. So what a quick mention of where some of our points leaders are. So we've got Giovanni Mano currently in P10. Alex Albert is way back there. Unfortunately, he's many laps down, but right now, and then Giovanni Mano, yeah, P10. So David, really interesting what's happening with some of the points out. Andrew Fawcett in P9. So tons of opportunity, potentially some pretty big points hauls for some of these guys chasing our points leader, Alex Albert.
Yeah, indeed, really throwing a spanner in the works is this race. A little bit unpredictable, plenty of cautions, and there's no definite best strategy. You've just got to hope and and see what happens later in the race if it works to your favor. Daniel Bart's right up behind the pace car. He's not going to have much time to react when the green flag comes out now, and he might almost get caught napping. Brian Molitor from third is going to spin around a couple more cars, and the caution is out once again. And poor restart from some of our drivers. I also want to say Daniel Bart's maybe backed everyone up a little bit too much. No, sorry, not enough. If he'd backed them up a little further and then jumped earlier, it would have spread the pack out a bit further. But it's his prerogative as the leader to jump where he wants. We'll get a couple of replays of what's caused whichever caution this is. Is it 4 or 5?
I hate to say it, David, I've lost count, but yeah, what it looks like, Paul Fitzgerald was actually coming up to the green flag, and Giovanni Rano was not going as fast as he thought he was. Paul Fitzgerald ends up bumping in the back of Giovanni Rano, which slowed him down, which then caused Paul Fitzgerald to hit the wall, and for lack of a better term, all hell broke loose after that, as we have all sorts of cars, David. I think that collection of cars, I'm seeing 6, I'm seeing possibly 7 cars involved in that incident there. My goodness, was that a big one.
Sort of the lap down cars that was right behind the leader, Anthony Younes, also went for a spin, and I think that's scared and spooked everyone behind that. So, I apologize, Brian Molitor did not go for a spin. He still holds on to third position. And our top 5 is Bartz, Franklin, Molitor, Dylan Blanton, and Jordan Beck. And the race finished as it is right now, I think our biggest mover would be Jordan Beck. Started out of 20th position, now running in 5th. He pitted 10 laps ago, so he's worked his way to the front. And as things look right now, is fuel to get to the end. So it'll take something to. So either Jordan Beck in 5th or Sean Haug in 6th, I think, are our biggest contenders for biggest mover.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, in contention for the biggest mover. Yeah, these guys are, just what it takes in this race to drive safe, drive smart, and be easy on that gas pedal. So yeah, Jordan Beck doing pretty well. His fastest lap is a 37.176. So definitely not the fastest car on the track. In fact, he's almost half a second. Excuse me, about 4 tenths slower than our fastest lap, which means a lot on this track. But you know what, David? Right now, your best lap doesn't matter too much. It's whose car is clean, how diligent you have been with your pit stops, and maybe some of your strategy. But right now, that group is pretty smart. But some fascinating strategy playing out at this point is Daniel Bartz and Nate Franklin, who are coming up on 30 laps old tires. They're going to come across the start-finish line. Daniel Bartz is going to have 28 lap old tires. Nate Franklin with 25 lap old tires. And the person closest to that is down in P15. David Hall is 23 laps. And David, I don't think I can validate this, but David Adamczyk in P20 is showing as 33 laps on his tires. I don't know if that's real, but if that is the case, my goodness, is he adventurous.
That's the same number I've got, that he hasn't pitted yet. I'm not sure about that because he is 2 or 3 laps off the lead. So I think he may have missed the start. That's definitely possible why he might have not pitted yet, but be several laps down. Thinking of that strategy though, don't normally give a prize for biggest pitter, but our contenders there, Antonio Alvarez and Giovanni Romano, have both taken 4 pit stops so far this race, but they have no match for Jordan Babcock with 5 trips to pit lane so far this race. Matthew Hall also on 4 there.
Yeah, some of these guys are multiple laps down, but we do have Alex Albert. Has worked his way back up to just 1 lap down. David Hall 1 lap down. Michael Derby 1 lap down, and Ben Fawcett 1 lap down. So these guys keep clean out there. They may get themselves a wave around if the stewards are feeling generous. So let's go back up front here. Yeah, we do still have the lights on the base car. And David, we are ticking down here with just about 14 minutes left in this race. We are on lap 37. I think we probably would have been 10 laps further in this race had we not had some unfortunate incidents. And yeah, we've been kind of talking about that tonight. This has been a race full of yellow flags, but this is not an easy car to drive. This is not an easy track to drive. And I think these guys are doing the best they can out there.
I'm just looking at some of the lap charts, doing some counting, and while we're 37 or so laps into the race, I think we've had about 15 or so green laps. So really, when you talk about the age of the tires for Daniel Bartz or Nate Franklin, the total number of laps doesn't really matter. It's about those green flag laps where they're actually using and wearing down the tires, and there really hasn't been as many of those. So, it's worked out well from Daniel Bartz, who pitted at the first caution on lap 8, and then has just stayed out since then, worked his way up, and since then, from the start was the longest green flag running that we had. Since then, there's only been about 10 green flag laps. So I think Daniel Bartz on fuel probably ought to be okay to get to the end from here. And on tires, I mean, fresh is best, but he's really haven't seen too much punishment yet.
No, I don't think he has. And David, I'm trying to remember. I believe this was a couple seasons ago. I cannot recall if it was Daniel Bartz or if it was Giovanni Mono. We had that magical race at Skip Barber where, I cannot remember which one it was, but they went all the way without a single pit stop on fuel. I think Daniel Bartz is trying to replicate that very magical moment, but possibly with tires. Maybe even David Adamczyk, if he was running a little higher, we might be rooting for that moment as well. But Daniel Bartz is definitely riding a dream right now. If maybe he sees cautions going throughout this race and can pull an equal magical moment that we saw that one time at Barber Motorsports Park with a Skippy where somebody did not pit. David, do you recall what I'm talking about? Because that was one of the most exciting races I recall ever calling in RAL.
I've definitely got memories of that. The way that these races are set up, often sometimes that happens. There's a little bit of ambiguity about which is the best strategy to follow, and it can split the field a little bit. Lights out on that pace car. It pulls in. Daniel Bartz puts the power down. He'll get away. Nate Franklin and Molitor and such behind. Definitely at the pointy end of the field, a little bit more of a sensible start. Antonio Alvarez has gone and lost a couple spots, though.
Yeah, Antonio Alvarez, almost an identical issue. He had just a big old checkup, and he actually got hit, David. He got hit on the tri-oval there. A big checkup at the back. He got a big old bump. Doesn't look like he has any damage. Maybe a little dent on the rear wing, but whoever hit him likely has a very damaged front wing, or that thing may be gone. But thankfully, Antonio Alvarez is still driving. He's likely down on speed, but David, he is by himself. So he was in P12, but now he is all alone.
Yeah, a bit of a check-up there. Antonio Alvarez gets a little bit of a lift on the rear axle from Michael Derby, who then got a hit from our no pit stop wonder, David Adamczyk, who is now on pit lane. So, green flag, still racing. We avoided a caution on that one because everyone kept going. But it was a bit touch and go there, and there's a couple drivers who now have to do some repairs to their car under green flag conditions, which is never perfect.
No, it is never perfect. We got some side-by-side action up here in the front. We got got my bearings here. We got Sean Hogg going outside of Dylan Blanton, going outside. And David, he's looking for another opportunity. He's sizing up Brian Molitor here. We see this outside line again, looking a bit spicy with just under 10 minutes left in this race.
Yeah, Sean Hogg going for the Hunter Reeves strategy. Just keep it pinned on the high line while everyone's trying to defend the yellow line down low. It's worked for Hogg. He's grabbed Blanton, he's grabbed Molitor, he's side by side with Nate Franklin. He puts his nose in front there to get scored in second. Now he's going to have a look at Daniel Bartz. Sean Hogg on the same age tires as these guys around, pitted at the end of the first caution. So he has made great progress on the high line there. He's almost looking to grab the lead of the race. Daniel Bartz still has it just down low. Nate Franklin in third is sort of taking a middle of the road approach, and then it's side by side for fourth and fifth. And now Nate Franklin comes down a little bit lower. I think Hogg has lost a teeny bit of momentum up high. It'll be side by side with Daniel Bartz coming into turns 3 and 4. They almost touch, but they don't. And bravery from these two guys. Bumpy, hard to hold your line, but they keep out of each other.
Yeah, very dicey moment there for Brian Molitor, but let's keep an eye on Brian Molitor and Dylan Blanton here. These guys have, oh, we got a caution here. I was getting ready to say these two cars have the freshest tires of this top group by almost 15 laps. So we have got ourselves a caution. And I'm trying to see who is dropping down my timing screen. And it looks like maybe Ryan Verhulst is crabbing, and he may have had an issue with car number 25 on track, Antonio Yunes. Yeah, David, that was just kind of a pit maneuver right there. It looks like, Yunes looking to dive inside. Maybe that's a very late blocking maneuver by Ryan Verhulst, forced him down to the apron. And unfortunately, Ryan Verhulst was the big loser right there. Big crash. And David, that is going to be his second big moment of the night.
Yeah, indeed. Those two cars coming together, and tap on the rear of Ryan Verhulst sent him spinning and into the barrier, and then brought out the caution for the time in this race. So 7 minutes left on the clock, 2-minute lap times behind the pace car, means we're really looking at maybe going green with 2 or 3 laps to go. And it just goes to show that how hard Daniel Bartz fought to not give in on that couple of laps of we had just then when Sean Haug was making progress. Uh, Being the leader when that caution comes out seems very, very important.
Yeah, so it looks like, we have been questioning his strategy for the last couple of laps now. And when I say questioning, we're interested in Daniel Bartz's strategy. But right now, this group that has opted not to pit, Daniel Bartz, Sean Haug, and Nate Franklin, all of them now way north of 33 laps on these tires. David Hall down in P14. He's also in the 30-lap club. So these guys really playing the yellow flag game. David, I heard you have some interesting information to share.
Yeah, well, one of our retirements from this race, Hunter Reeve, we were talking about the strategy he used in the initial running, staying up high, keeping the throttle pinned, and swallowing up a couple of cars that way. He's chimed in to let us know that he's definitely, having had his time again, would do it the same way, that the bumps not quite as severe higher up the banking, a bit easier to hold your line, a bit easier to be more confident. He suggests that the bottom line, sometimes you get thrown around on the bumps, it'll throw you down towards the apron, and then that unsettles the car further and can send you into a spin or some issues. So, it's still on the pace car. Top 5, Daniel Bartz, Sean Haug, Nate Franklin, and Dylan Blanton. And Haug started in 21st and then has gone challenging for the lead of the race. So that is a big, big move from him. And let's see what he can do when we go green flag racing once again in a couple of minutes. But yeah, certainly the Highline, when it works for a driver in their setup, it seems to work really, really well, because in the couple of laps of green flag racing we had just then, Haug swallowed up 4 or 5 cars in just a couple of laps.
Yeah, it has been really interesting. Now, I don't recall, because I have not driven this layout in many moons, but I wonder if maybe that high, low, or maybe even the middle line on this track, maybe not as bumpy. So maybe you're not doing as much action with your wheel, and maybe less steering is involved, obviously, because the radius isn't as tight. But maybe that side draft is a little healthier than what we anticipated. But just a really interesting approach here. So Sean Haug is definitely going to want to take advantage of Daniel Bartz. He's got, dare I say, 3-lap younger tires. Not that I think that matters at this point, but Sean Haug is definitely going to be sizing up Daniel Bartz on these final laps here. Nate Franklin is also going to be in the catbird seat if these guys, I believe we start single file here. So Nate Franklin could get himself a big old run off of this. But Dylan Blanton sitting in P4. He's got 20-lap-old tires, so he's way, way below where these other guys are with 30 laps. So he may get a little more bite off that corner, but the draft is going to be the name of the game here. And David, I think we're going to go green with, right at about 2 minutes left. If these guys can keep it clean, we're going to have ourselves some extremely exciting last couple of laps. But right now, Nate Franklin, P3 in points, currently sitting P3 on the grid with a lot of those championship contenders not very close to him. So Nate Franklin, big opportunity for a points haul tonight.
Certainly, lights are out on that pace car. They're just turning into turn 3. I think we'll go green with 3 minutes or 2.5 minutes left on the clock. If we go green to the end from there, it'll be about 5 laps or so. Daniel Bart's riding right along beside that pace car. Sean Haug, I think, trying to give just a little bit more gap there, give himself more time to react. All the cars, as you say, single file in the train behind our leader, Daniel Bartz, who is now 3 minutes from a potential victory in Reddit iRacing League. Green flag is out. We go racing, and relatively clean start. A bit of too wide right at the back of the field. But Daniel Bartz gets a pretty decent jump, but it won't be long before Sean Haug is in that slipstream and right up on his gearbox again.
Yeah, you bet. Sean Haug is laser focused right now. Nate Franklin also laser focused. Do not forget about Dylan Blanton. He's going to have some clean air with those fast tires all the way back in P4. But Daniel Bartz with a sensational start. We are watching some of the closing speeds as that draft is going to be very healthy for Sean Haug. And Sean Haug has clipped the apron, almost shot up into the wall, but had to have been extremely scary for him. That's going to pull Nate Franklin even closer to Sean Haug. And David, I'm showing we've got roughly 4 laps left in this race. Daniel Bartz, he's sitting pretty right now. Sean Haug has got to be careful not to make another mistake like that.
Got a caution once again. That's going to end the race almost assuredly. So, do we wait to call it, Aaron, or do we call it now?
I'm afraid to call, but I think we've got at least 2 laps ahead of us here in terms of pace laps. And I
look at a replay of what caused the caution.
Yeah, I'm trying to work my way back here to see what. Yeah, it looks like car number 25, Anthony Ewens, was the catalyst to this caution here, and he is watching him go into NASCAR 3 and 4. Car number 20 is below him. Antonio Alvarez, David, he just clipped the apron, shot up into Anthony Ewens, and got very, very loose. And then coming down the track, he actually collected another car, and that was David Adamczyk, who's just had an absolutely kind of a dreadful second half of this race. Got collected as well, got clipped, and then shot up into the tri-oval, nose it in really hard, and that is going to end his race. So, David, some high drama and some high impact wrecks in the last minute or so of this race. But David Adamczyk, big retirement, big wreck. Tough to see that.
Yeah, tough way to end the race as well for some of these guys with the checkered flag, somewhat figuratively, somewhat literally in sight. And Anthony Ewens and his Spanish-sounding compatriot Antonio Alvarez coming together there and basically bringing out the end of the race. So Daniel Bartz right now behind that pace car. 10 seconds left on the clock. Do they see the checkered flag this time? Pace car will see it first, and then Daniel Bartz will be our winner. It's just a matter of the official timing for it. They're approaching the start-finish line now. The time has expired, but I think they're being shown the white flag and the yellow flag behind the pace car. So they'll do one more lap behind the pace car and then be scored complete in the order they are right now, which is Bartz ahead of Haug, ahead of Nate Franklin in 3rd, Dylan Blanton in 4th, and Brian Molitor in 5th. Probably not the way these guys wanted to end the race, knowing that it's locked in the order it is right now, and they're just, I guess, doing a lap for the fans.
Yeah, this is definitely a lap for the fans, although not the most exciting lap for the fans. If they could, maybe rip some engines on some of the major grandstands areas as they're approaching right now that backstretch. So Yeah, I think you're right. This is not how these guys wanted to end this race, but I think we kind of saw it coming at the start. I joked around about a dozen or so cautions, and I don't think we're too far off of that. But just as I said, these cars are very difficult to drive on any surface, on any track. And right now, what you're seeing is the result of that. Just a very hard, combination tonight. And kudos to these guys that have kept the car under them. And one of them is Daniel Bartz, who is on 41 old lap tires. We're going to cross start finish the checker flag with 51 laps. So, what a drive tonight by Daniel Bartz.
Yeah, indeed. Picked his perfect time to make a pit stop, held on to it under a little bit of pressure, and I think relatively worthy winner. One of the things that really plays into this is just the uh, how long the yellow caution periods take on a super speedway like this. That was the checkered flag there, though. Daniel Bartz now completes the race distance as the winner. Sean Haugen second, Nate Franklin in third. A couple of these guys are going to do some celebratory burnouts, some celebratory wrecks on their way to finishing a race that had not quite as much green flag racing as we might have wanted, but did give us at least a little bit of strategy and some action at points.
Yeah, it definitely did. So our field has walked through the finish line, this cross start finish one last time. And David, I'm going to run down this group. So we have Daniel Bartz up 5 places tonight, finishing in P1. Congratulations to him. Sean Hogg up 19 spots tonight. Sean King in P2, 19 spots. Nate Franklin up 2 spots tonight and finishing in P3. That is our podium. Dylan Blanton, P4. Brian Molitor, P5. Chris Fleming, P6. Jordan Beck, P7. Andrew Fawcett, P8. Shane Cameron, P9. Giovanni Mano, and our points two leader, or excuse me, our second points leader, Giovanni Mano in P10. Antonio Alvarez, P11. Alex Albert, our championship leader, unfortunately, very difficult night, finishing in P12. David Hall, P13. Michael Derby, P14. Paul Fitzgerald, P15. Matthew Hall, P16. And Anthony Yunes, P17. Jordan Babcock and Babs Nation, very difficult night, rounding out the top 18 here. Alex Crawford, P19. David Adamczyk, rounding out our top 20. Rest of the group, Andrew Fawcett, P21. Ryan Verhulst, P22. Hunter Reeve, P23. Justin Hall, P24. Justin Lemons, P25. And unfortunately, Mitch Welker in P26. We did not see him start tonight. So David, that is a whole mouthful of cars. 26 started the race. Not so many finished clean, but do you have anybody in the booth that you would like to speak with, particularly our winner tonight?
Certainly do. I believe I have Daniel Bartz standing by here, who takes a win, and an interesting win it is. Is that how you'd like to see the checkered flag?
You never like to see it under yellow, but someone who doesn't have a win in this league before, you'll take it however you can get it.
Going into this race, obviously, we knew cautions were enabled. We know that this is a bumpy circuit, and racing side by side can be quite difficult. So, what were your thoughts then on when to pit under which cautions? Because I think you were, in the end, it's come down to uh, getting a little bit lucky on the roll of the dice when to grab your pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, I got off sequence early. I was in the first wreck, but that turned out to be enough fuel to take the whole thing. I mean, I've run this car and this track is crazy. We knew there were going to be a lot of yellows, so it was a matter of sticking it out until I won or ran out of fuel.
So in the end, a couple more cautions actually sort of came to your aid in that respect.
Absolutely. That last caution, well, the last two cautions, I needed them to have enough fuel to make it. Otherwise, I would have had to stop in for a splashing.
Well, I want to offer you congratulations on your first win in Reddit iRacing League, and anyone you want to thank.
I'd like to thank the mods for setting up races that I actually have a chance to win. It's beautiful. I'd like to thank my mom, and I'd like to thank you, David.
Well, thank you. Right. Well, who else have you gone and grabbed, Aaron? because there's a couple more people that we can pick their brains and hear their thoughts.
David, I've never heard you so flattered before. But however, I have had a chance to grab our P3 driver tonight, Nate Franken. Nate, you were one of the tire champions tonight. You ran 40 laps on a set of tires tonight. Talk us about what it was like on some of those tires, and more importantly, talk us about these restarts, because my goodness, do we see a lot of chaos around those.
Yeah, the restarts were really scary. Even in second gear, if you just flat out floored it, you could get wheel spin and just instantly die. This car loves to snap oversteer, so I was doing every restart in second and kind of driving it like I had an egg under my pedal, just trying to keep it facing the right direction. And it paid off. I was also in that first crash with Bart's, and I pit then took fuel, used my fast repair, so I was just trying to play it conservative, and it ended up working out. All the cautions allowed me to make it on fuel. So
Nate, talk about some of the different lines out here. We saw Hunter Reeve very early on going side by side with Andrew Fawcett for probably the first 10 laps leading up to our first caution. What was beneficial to that for that middle line? And is the side draft really a thing with these cars?
I think mainly it was just the lack of bumps in that middle line. The bottom line, a combination of the bottom line having the bumps, and also those bumps can easily push you onto the apron, and the apron was quite deadly. I don't know if there were any accidents caused by the apron, but I suspect there probably was. As soon as you touch it with your left front, you tended to get a little sideways. So yeah, I just like the middle line because it was safe. There was no bumps, and you could run side by side with somebody pretty comfortably.
Well, Nate, congratulations on a P3 finish. We always see you drive pretty consistent and keeping your car clean. Definitely a good points haul for you tonight, as our championship leader, Alex Albert and Giovanni Mano, both had not so good nights. So congratulations on a good finish and some good points tonight. Any thanks or shout outs before you head out of the booth?
Yeah, shout out to Team Huge Ass, of course, and yeah, so the fellow mods have very proud to see all the work that they've put in, and look forward to continuing it. But aside from that, looking forward to a good team result as well. Both Derby and I think we're leading the team championship, so trying to close it up.
Well, Nate, we appreciate it. We'll hopefully see you in the final race next week. David, I have also grabbed our P4 finisher, Dylan Blanton. I believe we're welcoming him to the booth for the first time. He is all yours.
Dylan, fourth place there, but up 12 positions. Were you in any situation to worry about fuel?
Not really. I pitted midway, I think, with Derby and Molitor, and after that we were good to go because of the number of cautions. I really wish I had pitted maybe a little earlier. It might have made a difference. Track position might have not, but I worked out the best I could with that pit stop. I beat Molitor. I think Sean, who finished P2, had a lot faster car than both of us, and he got me on a restart. But fuel wise, we were good to go.
Tell us about those bumps, because we saw a couple people make some big moves, some big position gains, but just going high right around the outside of people. Was there a temptation to run up a little higher on the circuit?
Definitely, if you were had somebody else to follow up high, you definitely had a position where you could kind of use that toe and the smoothness of the high lane to gain some positions. But if you're trying to pass a line just by yourself, it's not enough of an advantage to do that for a position. But if you're definitely riding the low line with the bumps, you definitely have occasions where the rear will snap on the exit and you'll have to lift just a teeny amount and somebody can sneak under you. So they're definitely a positive and a negative to running that low, shorter line.
Well, one more round left in this season. We're going to see you there.
Definitely. I do love Bathurst, so I'll be sweaty in practice all week because I do love that track.
Thanks so much for having a word with us. Congratulations on fourth place.
Thank you.
Well, Aaron, that'll wrap up coverage of season 27, round 8 of Reddit iRacing League here from HJBC. Bit of a caution-filled race, which is disappointing in a way, but the victorious man taking benefit from all of that is Daniel Bartz. So we congratulate him on a strategy well predicted and a race well run. We hope we'll see you all again in a week for the season finale of this season It's going to be the Audi RS3 TCR car at, well, not quite my home circuit of Mount Panorama Bathurst, but certainly a lot closer than Daytona is. So we hope we'll see you there. And then the 15th of December, we wrap up this season of Reddit iRacing League. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you then.